Hello there. So what you heard there was me just noodling around using major scale patterns, specifically patterns that have 3 notes per string, as opposed to the usual CAGED system where there's a combination of sometimes 2 notes per string, sometimes 3 notes. Now, I'm not criticizing the CAGED method. I use it myself, I teach it, and I recommend it. And the reason is the CAGED method is a way of using, finding major scales across the whole neck in any key. There is one disadvantage though, and that is when you play a CAGED major scale, you end up with sometimes 2 notes per string, sometimes 3. And that inconsistency is very difficult for techniques such as alternate picking and economy picking, and for this hand, for legato. So it's a good idea to be able to play these 3 note per string scales that look more like this. That way we've got a consistent picking pattern. Now, a couple of things to watch out for. First of all, this is a little bit stretchier than the CAGED system. So first of all, warm up. Secondly, elevate the neck of the guitar. I've got a little footstool here helping me with that, and that reduces the angle on the wrist. If you get any pain in your wrist, stop immediately, go and have a coffee and then come back later. And also, if you have small hands and you can't reach like this, you don't actually have to stretch at all. You can kind of roll across the notes if you have to. So in this video, we're going to look at how we can play the 7 major scale patterns that have 3 notes per string. And there's a great advantage to this because certain sequences of notes and licks and techniques lend themselves to it. I'll write them all down on the screen, but if you want them all in one place, here's my book, which I'll put a link to in the description. It's called Essential Guitar Techniques. It's got all the patterns and the CAGED system in it. So sticking with our good old key of C, here is our first scale pattern. By the way, the numbers of these scale patterns are purely arbitrary. People have different numbers, but most people will agree this is pattern 1, the one that starts with the tonic. So we're going to go 8, 10, 12, and then same on the A string. Now you'll notice when I do this, I'm going first finger, middle finger, pinky. You're going to want to go first, third, pinky, but I don't recommend it because pinky and the third finger do not like separating, and that's particularly difficult if you're trying to do it down here. So go first finger, second pinky. Really force that to become your new technique. 8, 10, 12, same on the next string, 8, 10, 12. Then we've got 9, 10, 12, and then 9, 10, 12, 10, 12, 13, and again 10, 12, 13. Okay, our root notes were here, that's a C, there's a C here, 10 on the D string, and 13 on the B string. Let's reverse it. 13, 12, 10, 13, 12, 10, 12, 10, 9, 12, 10, 9, 12, 10, 8, 12, 10, 8. Now, as for the right hand, you can do different techniques. You can cheat, you can use legato, where you do mostly hammer-ons, hammer, hammer, which is easy to get speed once you get the accuracy right, and then pull-offs on the way back. But I want you to really work on the right hand as well. We want to learn to play scales with both hands perfectly in sync, and that's where a metronome or a drum machine like this one can really help. So both my hands are learning to play in perfect sync. Now I'm using alternate picking. I'm going down, up, down on the first string, then up, down, 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 up. There's one problem with that, of course, which is that sometimes you can kind of get trapped in between the strings when you need to hop over to the next string. So what I recommend when you do this is that you when you're starting with a down, slightly lean backwards so that you go 1, 2, 3 and clear the string. The next string will go up, down, up, and lean the other way, lean downwards. I'm going to exaggerate slightly. And look, I've cleared the string. I'm not trapped between the strings. So what I would do is average out in the middle, but slightly lean your pick in such a way as to escape the strings, so you're clear of them, ready for the next one. You don't want to go on the first string, you don't want to go down, up, down, get trapped in between the E and the A string when your next pick needs to be an up pick. So let's do this. We'll go down, up, 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 down, up. Another technique, which I accidentally did there, is you can do economy picking. And I'll do a whole video about this because it's quite advanced, but it's a very efficient way of picking. It's where you go down, up, down, and then push into the next string. It's like a mini sweep pick. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. I'm not hopping, I'm pushing through the strings. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. It's a very efficient way of picking fast. To find that pattern, you could just use a root note for now and just go here's a C and play the scale from there, or use a chord as a landmark. What I would do is I'd learn the CAGED method first and then kind of integrate that around it. So by the time you know the CAGED method, you'll know the notes and the chords and the scales around the neck really well anyway. So let's look at the next pattern. This starts on the second note of the scale now, so it's called pattern 2, and it goes like this: 10, 12, 13, and then 10, 12, 14, and again, and again. Then let's move over a couple of frets: 12, 13, 15, and again, and reverse: 15, 13, 12, 15, 13, 12, 14, 12, 10, and again, 13, 12, 10. Notice the fingers I use. I go first, third, pinky. You can get away first, second, third. I prefer first, third, pinky. First, second, pinky. First, second, pinky. First, second, pinky. Big move over to here. First, second, pinky. I can get away with third, but I would probably use pinky. And again. Now these patterns all overlap quite a bit, so you can kind of move in and out of them. You could be playing the first pattern, pattern 1, 2, 1, moving on, pattern 3 looks like this: 12, 13, 15, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 16, and then move over to 13, 15, 17, and again, in reverse, 17, 15, 13, and again, 16, 14, 12, and then 15, 14, 12, and again, 15, 14, 12, and 15, 13, 12. And then our root notes there, and there. By the way, that root note's also in the previous pattern, and there's another one here. So we've got I'm using alternate picking as my go-to for practicing this. I wouldn't worry about economy picking yet if you've never done it before. It'd be really good practice for your alternate picking as well. So moving on, the next pattern is pattern 4, looks like this. We can play this on 13 or 1. Let's do it up here because it's a bit less stretchy. We'll go 13, 15, 17, and then 14, 15, 17, and again, and then 14, 16, 17, and then 15, 17, 18, 15, 17, 19. Reverse: 19, 17, 15, 18, 17, 15, 17, 16, 14, 17, 15, 14, and again, 17, 15, 13. Oh. And then of course our root note is here, and here. That's 15 on the A, 17 on the G. So let's try that with a metronome. That's what it sounds like. Slow as you want to. Sometimes I like to miss out the last note because it's easier to turn around. Okay, pattern 5, we're kind of running out of guitar, so let's go down here now. We'll go to the 3rd fret and we'll go 3, 5, 7. Same again, same again. It's a bit stretchy, so really get that neck up. And then 4, 5, 7. And then 5, 6, 8, and then 5, 7, 8. And reverse: 8, 7, 5, 8, 6, 5, 7, 5, 4. And then it gets stretchy here on the dots: 7, 5, 3, 7, 5, 3, 7, 5, 4. Moving on quickly, the next pattern. By the way, the root notes for that were here, here, and here. Pattern 6 thing. This one's a great pattern because it starts on the relative minor root note. So it sounds like an A natural minor scale as well as a C major scale. So we've got 5, 7, 8, and again 5, 7, 8. Looks like a CAGED pattern, but we're not going to go back that way. We're going to stretch now and go 5, 7, 9, and again, and then 6, 8, 10, and 7, 8, 10. Reverse: 10, 8, 7, and then 10, 8, 6. 9, 7, 5, 9, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5. And the root note is here, 5 on the G, and the 8 on the top E. So let's just do that one with the metronome. Finally, pattern 7 looks like this. It starts a fret in front of the root note. So you've got 7, 8, and 8's the root note. So you've got 7, 8, 10, again, 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, and again, 8, 10, 12, and again, 8, 10, 12. And reverse, 12, 10, 8, 12, 10, 8, 10, 9, 7, and again, 10, 8, 7, 10, 8, 7. So here, here, and here. If I learn these faster, I prefer to leave that last note off just because it's easier to turn around. Pattern 1. Pattern 2. 3. 4. 6, 7, and back to 1 again. Now, look, I was talking about sequences of notes that you could do with this. They're not so easy to do with, say, the CAGED system, because you have to keep kind of changing from 2 notes per string to 3 notes per string and so on. So the easiest thing you can do with these patterns is just play the scale, but it starts to sound scaly and predictable. If I was soloing with these patterns, I like to mix things up a bit. So here's an example of a series of notes you can play. You can play what's called threes, where you go 1, 2, 3, back a note, 1, 2, 3, back a note, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. You don't need the whole scale, of course. You can just do little bits of it. Or you can do maybe descending, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or fours, 1, 2, 3, 4, back 2 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, what I prefer is having notes that don't just work in a linear fashion up and down the scale. They kind of have little jumps. For example, you can play a series of major and minor thirds. For example, this is using pattern 1. I can go a major third, so from the first note to the third note. I can go to the one I missed, and go from that, jump a note, play a minor third, go back to the one I missed, jump over a note, back to one I missed, jump over a note, back to the one I missed, jump over a note, back to the one I missed. So you get this. And back. And you can do it of any interval, fourths, fifths, sixths, and so on. Here's another thing we can do. We can play sextuplets, which is where we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This right hand loves this. You can just lean backwards the whole time. And let's repeat that and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got. And back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Repeat that string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's one of my favourite licks to do. I basically, to make it a little bit less predictable, I play the scale, but every now and again I miss out the middle note and then put it back in, so you get this kind of thing. I'm doing that kind of randomly. Sometimes I just play all 3 notes. Sometimes I miss the middle note and then come back to the first note and then play the middle note. So I get maybe hit. And so on. Coming back, sometimes I like to do legato runs, for example. Doing things like, so I went 10, hammered, hammered, pulled off, hammered the next string, and did the same here. Different pattern maybe. Anything you want. Okay, so you'll learn your own sequences of notes, and I don't want to spend too long just going through endless licks in this video. I really wanted you just to get those patterns down first. Just quickly before we finish though, let's make sure we not only know the patterns, but we can actually move them around. So the first one is kind of easy because it begins with the root note. As long as that's your root note, you know where you are. For example, pattern 1 in the key of A would be from a note of A. If you wanted to play pattern 2 in the key of A, that's a little bit harder because the root note's on the D string. Okay, but you just make sure you're really learning the strings as you're doing all this stuff, and then eventually you'll be able to do them second nature. Pattern 3. Pattern 3 has a root note on the A string. So, for example, in the key of A, pattern 3 will be here. But you can use a chord of A, of course, like that or that, to find these different patterns. Pattern 4. Pattern 4 is a good one. It's actually the most similar to one of the CAGED patterns. It pretty much fits over an A-shaped bar chord. So, for example, in the key of E, I could play that chord of E, and pattern 4 fits over it nicely. Okay, pattern 5 has a root note not on the starting note, but on the adjacent string. So in the key of C, there's our root note. So in the key of A, you'd have pattern 5, 5 would be here. Okay, now pattern 6 has a root note not on the beginning, but where pinky is on the E string. So you've got in the key of C. Okay, so if I wanted to play an E major scale using pattern 6, I could put pinky on an E and play that scale. So at the moment, I'm mostly using root notes or tonics to find these scale patterns, but you can use chords as well. If you know the CAGED system, this would be a lot easier, so definitely make sure you know the CAGED method. Finally, looking at pattern 7, you've got, say, in the key of C. This is quite a nice one. It's got a root note on the E string. It's not the first note, but the second note. So in the key of C, pattern 7 goes from a major 7th into the root note. So if I wanted to play that in the key of B, for example, here's a B and it's 1 fret below that. I start on the 6th fret and then come into the B, and that's my pattern 7. Anyway, I hope that was useful to you. Stick around for the next few videos because we'll get more in depth with how we can actually apply these new scales that we've learnt. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.